Joining me now is the Senate Democratic leader, Chuck Schumer of New York. Senator Schumer, welcome back to Meet the Press, sir.
Morning. Good to be back, Chuck.
All right, let's start with the health care ruling. The assumption is there's going to be appeals. How do you appeal this law? Do you appeal the specific argument about the mandate or the entire ruling, or is it on severability? Where do you attack this decision?
Okay, well, first, Chuck, it's an awful ruling. It goes, of course, it undoes pre-existing conditions. It jeopardizes the tens of millions who are getting good health care in the exchange, but it goes way beyond that. It would knock out funding for treatment of opioids. It would raise drug prices and close the donut hole so seniors would pay more for drug prices. It would eliminate a lot of maternal care, all kinds of women's health. It's an awful, awful ruling. We're going to fight this tooth and nail. And the first thing we're going to do when we get back there in the Senate is put a vote on the floor urging an intervention in the case. The judge, a lot of this depends on congressional intent. And if a majority of the House and a majority of the Senate say that this case should be overturned, it'll have a tremendous effect on the appeal. So our first stop is the courts. We believe this should be overturned. It's an awful, awful decision. And it puts a lot of our Republicans in a box because they sort of were two-faced. On the one hand, they said they want to preserve pre-existing conditions and preserve health care. On the other hand, Donald Trump and a large number of Republicans brought this court suit. So there are going to be a good number of Republicans who are going to really have to make a decision whether to join us in this intervention or face very severe consequences.
Are you open to finding a compromise with Republicans? Let's say let's say your prospects don't look as good in the courts as you might think that they do. Do you try to work with them to bring a penalty back on the mandate, if that's what it takes? Do you work with them to figure out a plan that eliminates the mandate? Where are you on this?
Well, legislation when it comes to health care, as we have seen, is very difficult. And the president and a large number of Republicans are actually for cutting back on health care. That's what they've done for 2 years. We have a divided House and Senate. I think the courts have to be the first and best way to go.
Let me ask you this about the courts, by the way. Brian Fallon, somebody who used to work for you, by the way, he tweeted the following. He said, the judge who ruled in favor of gutting Obamacare was confirmed by voice vote. Remember that the next time Democrats cut a deal with McConnell on judges and defend it by saying, quote, they were all non-controversial nominees. This judge, by the way, confirmed in 2007 when Democrats were in control of the United States Senate. Do you regret the way you guys voice voted this judge?
Look, you never know how a judge is going to vote 10 years later. But this was an awful, awful decision. And it has to be overturned. There's also, an element, I don't know how you deal with this, but forum shopping. The Republicans chose this court and this bench because they thought they might get this way out of the mainstream ruling from this judge who's done it before.
You brushed off this judge issue very quickly. Look, that was part of a deal you were a part of cutting back in 2007. Was that a bad deal?
No, there was no deal, I don't think, on this judge. He was a nominee to the district court. No one brought up anything. No one knew how he'd rule in the future. And, it's an awful ruling. Let's make no mistake about it.
Some progressives, as you know, and maybe even some senators in your own caucus are going to say, okay, here we go again with the Affordable Care Act, and it was a flawed enterprise anyway. Here's what Adam Green, founder of Progressive Change Campaign Committee, writes. He says, Democrats need to put a bright North Star in the sky for 2020 voters, showing what Democrats would do with more power and making clear that we're moving toward Medicare for all as a big part of a 2020 electoral strategy. It seems pretty clear that the presidential nominee, whoever it is, will support Medicare for all. Do you think it's time for Democrats to push this?
Look, Democrats are for universal access to health care from one end of the party to the other. We want more people covered, everyone covered. We want better health care at a lower cost. People have different views as to how to get there. Many are for Medicare for all. Some are for Medicare buy-in. Some are Medicare over 55. Some are Medicaid buy-in. Some are public option. We're going to have to do a lot more on health care. It will be a major issue in 2020. And I believe Democrats will coalesce around the best way to get the best health care for the most people.
Where are you? Do you think you should spend more time fixing the Affordable Care Act or launching a new health care proposal?
Well, we first have to undo this awful decision because, look, we have a Republican president, we have a Republican Senate. They've spent a lot of time sabotaging health care. So that's the first job. But after that, Democrats, as we did in 2018 rather successfully, are going to make health care a major, probably the major issue in the upcoming campaigns and as we act in Congress. And we're going to force our Republican colleagues, now that this decision has sort of lifted up their hypocrisy, to choose a side. Are you for the American people, working people, for more and better health care, or are you going to continue to cut it? Same with Trump. Same with President Trump.
I know you're very careful about putting your view here now that you're the leader of the Senate conference there. Where are you going to support Medicare for all, Senator Schumer?
Look, as I said, there are lots of different routes. I'm going to support a plan that can pass and that can provide the best, cheapest health care for all Americans.
I want to move on to the issue that may lead to a government shutdown. It is immigration. I want to play for something you said in 2009 on the Senate floor. Take a listen.
People who enter the United States without our permission are illegal aliens, and illegal aliens should not be treated the same as people who entered the U.S. legally.
Apologies, you said that at Georgetown Law School, not on the floor of the Senate there.
Some people at Georgetown would think it's even better to say it there.
That is so true. Senator Schumer, do you still believe in that principle?
Of course, no Democrat believes that there's no difference between legal and illegal immigration. We Democrats were for a path to citizenship, however, not amnesty, a very difficult path to citizenship. In 2013, every single Democrat voted for it. A whole bunch of Republicans, led by John McCain, voted for it, and it was thwarted in the House. So we want to create a path to citizenship for those illegally, but we don't think they're the same.
Is there any way you budge at all on your number on border security, on the 1.6? We know you don't want to give them the 5. Is there anywhere in the middle here? Okay. Is there any middle ground that you would be willing to inch over to that you think could get 60 votes in the Senate?
President Trump should understand there are not the votes for the wall in the House or the Senate. He is not going to get the wall in any form. Even the House, which is a majority Republican, they don't have the votes for his $5 billion wall plan. In fact, Ryan, afraid of what's going to happen, sent all the House home till Wednesday night, a day and a half before 2 days before the shutdown. And they certainly don't have the votes in the Senate. Now, we Democrats, Leader Pelosi and I, offered the president 2 options as to how to avoid the shutdown. And we should not let a temper tantrum, threats, push us in the direction of doing something that everybody, even our Republican colleagues, know is wrong. Leader McConnell has said we shouldn't shut down the government. Chairman Shelby has said we shouldn't shut down the government.
I understand that.
And they should join us in one of these 2 proposals, which would get more than enough votes pass and avoid a shutdown. Then if the president wants to debate the wall next year, he can. I don't think he'll get it, but he shouldn't use innocent workers as hostage for his temper tantrum to sort of throw a bone to his base.
What you're saying is there's no wiggle room here. It's those 2 options or that's it.
No, well, those 2 options are the kinds of things that Republicans have supported in the past. And when you talk to them privately, even publicly, a lot of them have said a CR is much preferable to a shutdown. They just have to have the guts to tell President Trump he's off on the deep end here, and all he's going to get with his temper tantrum is a shutdown. He will not get a wall.
Before I go, I want to ask you about the prospects of impeachment. In the last 2 weeks, we've learned that the president directed Michael Cohen to commit felonies. At what point do you believe the House Democrats, you were on the House Judiciary Committee in 1998, so you're very familiar with this.
Yes.
At what point are House Democrats obligated to open an impeachment inquiry? Nobody says that means you vote for impeachment, but are they obligated to start one?
Well, I'll give you my view. We should make sure that Mr. Mueller is unimpeded, that he finishes his investigation, and we should make sure that that report is public. And then we should make a decision on the totality. As you know, impeachment has a lot of different ramifications. We certainly think no president is above the law. But I think it's wise to wait for the report. More and more people are believing in Mueller. Fewer and fewer people, as your survey showed, believe the president. Let's get the report and let's read it, let it go public, and then let us decide.
Is it an asset or a liability to have the first name of senator if you run for president in 2020?
Well, we have a lot of good senators running, and there are a lot of good non-senators running. To my view, let 1,000 flowers bloom. Let everyone run, and let's see who's the best candidate. I do believe this, that Democrats are going to be guided by who can best beat Trump, because he's such a danger to the nation, to the middle class, to the working class people of America. So I think at the end of the day, there's going to be more unity than people think.
Sounds like you think electability should be first and foremost.
Well, I think what I'm saying is I think the voters will believe that.
Fair enough. Senator Schumer, Democratic leader in the Senate, thanks for your time and for
Chuck,
sharing your views.
good to see you. And can I make one little plug?
Oh.
Go Giants. Go Giants.
Okay, as you fight for your non-playoff spot. Fair enough. Thank you, sir.
You never know. You never know.
Okay, I'll have to check that math. Fair enough. Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and then click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.